Planning Board meeting will come to order. May we have a roll call, please?
Yeah. Mr. Hurt, here. Mr. Moore?
Here.
Mr. Davis?
Here.
Mr. Bohan? Mr. Neal?
Here.
Ms. Washington?
We heard from both Ms. Washington and
Mr. Host.
Mr. Hoyt that could not be here. Heard from Mr. Ross.
Mr. Davis?
Here.
Mr. Harper?
Here.
Mr. Harper?
Yeah.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, sir. Approval of the last month's meeting minutes for September 22nd? September 26th, I'm sorry.
Motion to approve September 26, 2013 minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All nays? Any nays? Okay. Okay. There will be a change right here in the order of presenters for this evening's meeting. We'll start with number 6, item number 6 and 7. May we hear from staff, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Land Development Code text amendment modifying prohibited uses in the South Atlantic Redevelopment Area, DEV 2013-106.
Okay. Good evening. Reed Berger, I'm the Redevelopment Director. 2 weeks ago at the Main Street Redevelopment Board meeting on October, I believe it was the 9th, we had the opportunity to see the planned redevelopment proposal for rezoning of the Hard Rock Hotel. During that time, when we got towards the end, we had a discussion about the prohibition of restaurants, and there was a request by the applicant at that time to request a waiver for fast food restaurants, drive-in restaurants, which were prohibited on the west side of Atlantic Avenue and on the south side of International Speedway Boulevard. And that is both found in the Land Development Code as prohibited uses and also in the South Atlantic Redevelopment Area Plan. So what transpired after that during the approval process for the Hard Rock Hotel rezoning was that the Main Street Redevelopment Board asked in their motion that staff go back and address the issue of not being able to waive a prohibited use, and that there needed to be a way to allow a restaurant, these types of restaurants, to be on Atlantic Avenue. So what we did as a staff is found that the process that should be used is to provide a text amendment to change the prohibited uses in this area if we're going to accommodate the request of the Hard Rock Hotel. And so staff has initiated the request that's before you now. When we looked into this further, we determined that the area that was affected by these prohibitions in the South Atlantic Redevelopment Area was that area that allows for T2 restaurants, the drive-through restaurant, from Lenox Avenue to, there's a map in your packet, and that zoned area of these tourist districts of T3 and T4, okay, they allow for these drive-through T2 restaurants, or A2, I'm sorry. So the T3 and the T4 districts, those tourist districts, will accommodate A1 type of restaurants, which is your sit-down restaurant. That's by right. And the prohibited uses that are allowed, that were allowed at that time prohibited, was this A2 type. Sorry to confuse you with all that A2 and A3, but A2, keep in mind, is the drive-through. The discussion a couple weeks ago with the Main Street Board was they would like to have a Starbucks as their example, what they're looking for on property they own on the west side of the street. And so they were hoping that they could get that type of a product on the west side on their properties. And the Main Street Board agreed that that was a good idea. And when we look at that area between Lenox and Silver Beach, you can have a drive-through restaurant if you didn't have that prohibition. That's the area that's really impacted. North of Lenox, in our up to just short of ISB, International Speedway Boulevard, it's Zone T2. You can't have a drive-through restaurant there. It's not in there as a permitted use. So we didn't think that took care of several blocks to the north and was not an issue. And along ISB, except for that corner up there, that area that the map shows it's T4, that you can't have a drive-through restaurant either. Now I'm going to go on to the next one, which is the A3 that's in there. Nowhere is there a zoning district that exists today that allows for an A3 restaurant. It's just not there. So in the redevelopment area, in the South Atlantic redevelopment area, none of the zoning that's there today allows for these A3 or drive-in restaurants. And we're looking at this as, I don't think, for example, a Sonic is what we were being asked to the applicant is asking us to accommodate. It's really, we're talking about something like a Starbucks drive-through restaurant that they were interested in. And some drive-through restaurants in A1A could really be a good thing in that area because it's a highly traveled road. And I think the type of drive-throughs we've seen over the recent years is that these are typically well-run establishments. I think they've figured out the speakers and they don't blare like they used to. I've run into a few, but is there an element that's going to create a problem, adjacent that maybe it was an issue in the past? I don't have any research that shows me exactly why all of that why the prohibition was targeted at these fast food restaurants, but nonetheless, it's in there, and we need to deal with it. And if you have any questions about this proposal, I'd be glad to answer them.
I do, Reed. In the past 10 years since this has been in operation, this prohibition has been in there. Have any other...
Not working right.
In the past 10 years, have any other property owners come forward and asked for an exception to the A2, A3 restaurant prohibition?
I have not been here all 10 years, but in my experience, since 2007, there's not been any requests that have come through our office.
Okay. My second question is, this change in the prohibited uses, this was not on the agenda for the CRA board meeting, because it came up in connection with another item.
That's correct. It was a
And my
redevelopment.
concern is that this particular prohibition, which has been in effect these 10 years, it was very important to the people at the time it was put in, because they viewed that particular type of restaurant, the A2 and the A3, as a threat to the neighborhoods along ISB and behind the ISB properties and behind the A1A properties. So this change is really, it doesn't affect just one property owner. It actually affects all of the property owners along the south side of ISB and the west side of A1A, because most of those properties are directly adjacent to residential properties. So the reason initially was to prevent high-intensity uses directly against single-family uses. And although there are no zoning categories that exist right this minute that could accommodate at A3, it's not impossible. If this was removed, somebody could come in and request a zoning change on any of those two strips of land. So my concern is that this particular change, it doesn't affect just one property owner. It affects a great number of property owners. And my concern was there was never any agended discussion of this in the CRA. It came up as an incidental piece of another item. So my concern is that there was no opportunity for the public, the people that are affected by this, and I would guess that many people have not even heard about this, that this is part of the larger development plan that you were discussing that night. That's my concern.
Sure. Procedurally, this is the opportunity that's afforded in the public process, and the Main Street Board typically looks at and advises on it. They don't have any other decision-making authority, but they can certainly recommend to you and the commission. And through their motion, they did make that recommendation for that change. They wanted to see that change as a part of this process moving forward for the removal of that prohibition. So,
well, my concern is I find this to be a very major change, and I'm very reluctant to just take the one recommendation without any other discussion about it. So.
Chairman? I have a question. I don't understand what the issue was with this type of use, when in the past, wasn't there a convenience store right where they want to have one of these drive-in restaurants? Isn't that the same kind of use? Wasn't there a convenience store there? That was it, later a yoga studio?
there were different retail operations in these stores. There's several spaces back there.
Pardon, never convenience. Was the issue the sound from the speakers and things like that? Or just the fact that it was active business with the restaurants?
I can't tell you. I don't have that information to tell you the history behind those particular restaurants being eliminated, but that process occurred during the creation of the redevelopment plan itself, because in there are the policies that I provided in your report that say that it recommends that those kinds of uses should be prohibited.
I have a question. A question to staff would be, traffic-wise, would ingress and egress traffic patterns, have a traffic pattern been, a study been done on this property to see would it cause any adverse effect for the traffic flow on that actual main strip?
There's been a traffic study done for the entire PRD.
Okay, but
Okay, not for a restaurant per se, or if there were to be a fast food restaurant. But overall, any type of retail establishment, that's been evaluated as a land use.
So that's part of the.
For example, a sit-down restaurant. So you can have sit-down restaurants there today by right on any of those properties. You simply can't have the drive-through with it. So the question, I guess, that I have is that more intense than the restaurant itself, and a sit-down restaurant?
Right.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? We want to hear from the applicant?
I am the applicant.
No. You got to fill out a sheet.
Okay.
Okay. But, Mr. Storage?
Yes, thank you. And for the record, my name is Glenn Storch, and I do represent Bayshore Capital, and that's the Hard Rock. And one of the things we were looking at on our site was the fact that we did see the idea that this should be an exciting area, and something like a Starbucks would be an exciting place thing to put in our Phase 3. And then we found out that you don't allow any drive-through restaurants all on the west side. And I understand it was done at the time for the purpose of the redevelopment plan. But if you'll look at what has happened with the redevelopment plan, the west side has suffered enormously. You have gutted buildings, you have things that have not worked, and you have basically chased off a large market of an investment for that area. And that makes no sense, especially since in the past, 10, 15 years since this is put into place, things have changed enormously. The society itself has changed. We are a different culture than we were at that time. I don't know about you, but I couldn't live without going through drive-thrus anymore. And so, I mean, not having the ability to do that doesn't make any sense. I just did the Starbucks in Port Orange, drive-through Starbucks in Port Orange. It is incredibly successful. The city loves it. They were thrilled to get this because this is something their citizens had been clamoring for. I mean, this was a great thing for them. From a parking standpoint, it doesn't require as many people parking in the neighborhoods or parking on the sides because you have a drive-through. From a garbage standpoint, we don't have as much garbage generated at the restaurant itself because people take their garbage with them. It actually, from people I've talked to who do this sort of thing, they're very pleased with the fact that they have drive-thrus, and most will not create a restaurant if they're not allowed to have a drive-thru. And this area here is a tourist convenient area. So to me, I mean, I understand that Reed and the board was recommending you put this in a very small area. Use this as a test case. See if it works. See if it's something to look at. But in our case, I mean, I don't think we're going to have things that are going to be in direct competition with the Hard Rock Cafe. I can't imagine hamburgers, to be honest with you, because that would be in competition with the Hard Rock. But what we would like to do is to have some of the restaurants that now do allow for drive-thrus, Dunkin' Donuts, Starbucks. Those sort of things would allow something that people would enjoy and at the same time would allow people to go about their business. It made sense from an economic standpoint. And it also, and it also makes sense from a planning standpoint. So, I mean, again, I know this was put in your redevelopment plan years ago, but the proof's in the pudding, and you got to look and see what we can do to jumpstart that west side, because the west side is suffering. The west side of A1A is suffering. And I will tell you right now, one of our major concerns is no matter what we do here, we're going to come into you, we're going to bring a site plan to you, we will work with the neighborhood, we will continually work with the neighborhood, we will sit down with them. I have no problem, we've not asked for any variances or anything else for that west side area, or for that Phase 3 area next to the residential area. We'll have walls up, we'll have buffers up, we'll do whatever it takes to make sure that everyone's happy. So that's our commitment to you. But I wanted to support the staff and the Main Street Board's recommendation.
Okay. There will be a 2-minute time limit on your responses, so please act accordingly. The next up. Okay. So he'll be next on the next item. Okay. Well, next speakers, please step. Okay. John? Okay. Mr. Nicholson?
Is he speaking in favor or against? Or against?
He didn't say.
Both. John Nicholson, 413 North Grandview Avenue. I have institutional knowledge of this. I went to all the meetings when they were creating the South Atlantic. This is staff-driven, or was staff-driven, to put it in here. Because after it was done in South Atlantic, it was then done in the Main Street area. and it was just recently overturned because Wendy's was not allowed to go back in. They ended up trying to put a Starbucks in there, and they had to redo the code. So basically, this is staff-driven. It wasn't something that came from the neighborhood per se, but when it came up, there were comments made about the garbage trucks, the noise. There were problems with teenagers hanging around and whatnot. I don't foresee Starbucks having a bunch of kids hanging around like you would at McDonald's or whatever. There's also a very limited area where these kind of things can go. If you look at the South Atlantic, it's a very narrow area. The time Peter Colt got the neighbors and the people in the area upset that there were bulldozers coming in. They were going to take all the houses down. So if you look at the map, it's just one or two properties along A1A. There's not enough depth anywhere to put another one like this. So basically, you've got two locations. If the Pizza Hut ever goes, and this location, that's about it. Lastly, this is something that really does bring the area up a bit. If you've ever been to a Starbucks, it's a bit pricey. So people that go there generally have extra funds. This is something that the tourists would enjoy. Also, the neighbors can enjoy. Your next project coming before you is a project that was going to be hut housing. Then it went to townhouses. Now it's back to its original desire to put in single family. This is what we need for the area. Staff prevented us from having these in the past. It's staff-driven. Check with the neighbors, but from what I recall, it wasn't the neighbors upset with this. There are only two locations, so as far as I'm concerned, it's something that the neighborhood could and would want. Thank you.
Thank you. There's one more public. Mr. Dennis?
Mike Dennis, 625 Lenox. The only problem I think it's a good idea. The only problem I have is traffic flow. When a drive-through lets out on a residential street, that's kind of severe. So if the regulation could be adjusted that says the entrance and egress are all on A1A, I'd be for it. But if it includes exiting on a residential street, I'm against it. Thank you.
In response to that one particular statement, please.
Yes. I just checked with my engineer, and he said, yeah, I don't see any problem with that.
Okay.
So, and it does make sense. We don't want to impact the residential neighborhood at all. We'll be working with them also on a traffic plan to avoid any impact of that neighborhood traffic flow. And we'll have our traffic engineers working on lighting and everything else. So I have no problem with the idea that a condition would be that no access would be from the residential streets.
Thank you. That closes the public statements and board.
I have a couple of comments. We are not, at this point, the area that we're talking about on the west side of A1A is Phase 3 of this particular property owner's project. And Phase 3 is some 8, 10, 12 years in the future, if I'm correct.
Could be.
It could be soon, I understand.
Yeah.
What I am concerned about, and my main point was, we are making a major change in the South Atlantic redevelopment plan, a major item that has been in there for a long time, that has been unchallenged for a long time, that affects not only the people that live behind the lots that we're talking about, adjacent to the property owner, across from the property owner that we're talking about tonight, but the change affects all along ISB and all along A1A. And my point is, it affects hundreds of property owners who would not have they had no indication it was going to be discussed as part of the CRA board meeting. If they looked at the public notice for tonight's meeting, they may or may not have understood that their property may be changed. And there's a lot of technicalities about the A2 and the A3. there may only be currently a number of lots that you could put an A2 or an A3 restaurant on. However, there is no way that you can prevent another property owner from coming in and requesting a rezoning to put an A2 or an A3 restaurant on most any of the lots that are along ISB or A1A. So it's a matter of zoning. It's not a matter of, there may be some lot size considerations, but you can always, as in this case, assemblages have been made. As you can see in this, we're combining residential lots with T3 lots, the west side lots on A1A. So my concern is we're making a major change in a major component with inadequate public comment. And we have comments from the people directly adjacent to this, but we don't have any comment at all because they were not aware of it, the other people that were affected by this CRA plan change.
Okay.
Are you saying that it could just be done by a zoning change? If that's what was required,
To put an A2 restaurant, all you need is a zoning change.
Yeah.
That's,
rather than changing?
it's not a change, it's not a changing of the future land use, it's a zoning change, which we have all the time, so. Because we're really not talking about a Starbucks restaurant, a Sonic restaurant. We're not talking about any particular type of restaurant at all. My concern is we're making a major change to a CRA plan with inadequate notice and discussion from the people in the CRA. It came up as an addendum item to another item at a meeting. And it just doesn't seem to me appropriate to make a major change in that with this little discussion.
Go ahead, Mr.
I just wanted to comment, and I know public comment is closed, but I did want to say, and I appreciate your comments, but what you're saying also is that at that time, if someone comes in for a rezoning, they then then it comes before this board, you can decide whether that's appropriate or not. It comes before the city commission, they can decide whether it's appropriate, and everyone in that neighborhood gets actual public notice of the proposed use. So, I mean, if your goal is to have the public involved at that point and have their input, then you have that right. All this does is allow us to proceed with our rezoning, which does allow for this particular use in our rezoning, in our PUD. And that's what we're looking at. And I mean, I don't have a problem with making it smaller or making it site-specific, but that's what we're looking at.
I'm not specifically concerned with your particular pieces of property.
That's what I'm saying, I know.
Because the rezonings we do all the time, and all of the people within 300, 500 feet, whatever it is, are notified.
Right.
In this case, we're rezoning a large swath on ISB, not rezoning. We're changing the rules for a large swath of land on ISB and a large swath on A1A.
Right.
And there was no notice to any of those people directly abutting those properties.
Well, it's a text.
That's my concern.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, that was a recommendation of the board, and I don't want to get into an argument, obviously. That's the last thing I want to do. Thank you. But I do want to suggest that, again, at that point, someone then can come in and ask for a rezoning, but you don't have to give it to them. And you have that right to then review it.
All right, board, what do we hear?
I have another comment.
Okay.
My comment is a business should come into an area to be an asset, not to create problems. And, personally, just listening to the developer and those that are going to put businesses there, and to see that they're happy to make changes that would make our area or community better speaks volumes. And so as we are looking at this and having someone that's willing to actually change the ingress, egress as far as traffic patterns and not affect the community or the neighborhood, it's a welcome sight, I think, anyway. That's my perspective. But and willing to make special condition, the lighting, make sure everything is there, make sure the noise level, we're not impacting the community, is a real plus, because most time folks come into a community and they want it their way, they want exemptions and this and all that. So personally, I just thank you for being able to work with the community to get it to that point. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
I just want to revisit what Ned, I think, was alluding to earlier. If the A1 restaurant is currently approved, this is probably a question for staff, just to arbitrarily pick a brand of A1, like a Denny's. The ingress, egress is going to be the same, retains to Atlantic Avenue, certainly trash in the back, dumpster lid slamming, hours of operation. I guess I don't understand the principal difference in an A1 and A2 restaurant's impact outside of traffic. More cars servicing around a drive-through. Like you said, like a loitering factor with the youth, I suppose. But
Let me offer up.
That's something I'm.
Well, let me offer
the
up.
Motivation of why this amendment was put in.
Again, I don't have the history on it, but I would tell you that something that would happen if somebody wanted to open a restaurant there, whether it was a fast food A2 or an A1, they would have to come before the Main Street Board and get site plan approval. It's not just staff coming in and approving that, and what we're talking about is significant in terms of the setbacks and the walls that you heard about, or where the driveways go. All of those concerns are taken into account, and yes, that is a public meeting. It's not a site plans aren't a publicly noticed meeting, other than the meeting is noticed that we're having the meeting. As long as somebody's monitoring the Main Street South Atlantic Board meetings, they'll see on the agenda these different site plans. So that's one place where there can be some involvement. And I think if it's significant, it may be a time when we use that neighborhood meeting process as well to get that word out.
So, just continuing, the text as it reads now, there is no ability for a potential applicant to even come before the Main Street Board and start the process. By removing the text amendment, it allows the opportunity to at least try or attempt to bring a project to the Main Street Board as the first stop, where it could be, not approved at this board, not approved at the commission, 3 levels above the original applicant, or application, I should say.
And the area really that's of issue is between Lenox and Silver Beach, where you could have one of these drive-through restaurants.
So now they cannot apply whatsoever. If we remove this text, or alter this text, then they can at least apply.
Certainly, and it would then be a permitted use in the T3 and T4 district.
I'm personally not so opposed to this, as I do think it will be a help in the area. What does concern me, though, is what Mr. McGinnis has brought up, and something coming from staff, twice in the last 3 months, in which an item hasn't been discussed, hasn't been brought forward, and all of a sudden appears on our agenda. That's not the case in this one, but the one before. And that does concern me. And if we're not giving residents an opportunity to express their concerns, and businesses, that does concern me. As far as this particular project, because of the circumstances, it doesn't bother me, but bringing things forward before they've properly been vetted is not good.
Make a motion we approve Land Development Code text amendment modifying prohibited uses in South Atlantic redevelopment area, development 2013-106.
Second.
Been motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Nay.
Repeat. That's complete. 6-1.
Correct.
Okay.
Motion passes.
Thank you, sir.
Number 7,
Number 7.
rezoning Plan Development District Hard Rock Hotel, development 2013-084, quasi-judicial hearing.
Staff?
What staff would like to do in this case, with your permission, is to allow the applicant to make their presentation first. They have a lot of graphics and information to show you that will kind of set the plate, and then I'd be happy to come up and answer questions afterwards. If that's okay with you.
That's fine.
Okay.
Mr. Burke? Thank you very much. And we've gone through this once before with the last hearing of the Main Street Board, so we're getting used to this. First of all, for the record, my name is Glenn Storch. I represent Bayshore Capital, which is the developer of the proposed Hard Rock Hotel. And I don't know if you can tell this, but this is really exciting. And I think you're going to see some of the things that we're talking about. And as part of what we've been doing, this has been a long-term process as far as design, as far as working with staff, as far as working with our friends in the neighborhood. This is something that's important to all of us as far as bringing this area back up to where it needs to be. And when I say this area, I mean all of Daytona Beach, because this is the sort of thing, this is one of those projects that is a game changer. And I think you'll see why in a second. Let's start with the presentation. Next. Oh, I guess I have to do this? Fine. All righty. This is the location of the site. And if you'll recall, this is the site that was previously some old hotels that have been totally cleared. And across the street, and this is one of the reasons why this is so important, across the street is dilapidated buildings, which we bought. The area is not in good shape. The Lennox was in poor shape. The area that was cleared was sitting there cleared and vacant for literally years. And one of the reasons, Mr. Barhu, I appreciate your comments on this, because one of the reasons I think it's so important to have this developer here is because this is not the only thing he's going to do. Henry has been here now for a while. They came in and they bought 4 large parcels on Daytona Beach. This is the first one. So he sees himself as part of the community. And that's why we worked so hard to do everything right in this particular case. Again, this is the site itself. I think you can see better. This is 895 feet across. To the mean high water line, it's almost 10 acres of land that will be there. So it's a significant parcel that's been sitting vacant in the city of Daytona Beach. This shows the site plan itself. Phase 1 and 2 is the area that's all cleared. Phase 3 is the areas across on the other side that we've been able to purchase. We tried to purchase as much as we could, did everything we could, but that's what we were able to purchase to clean up some of the neighborhood and make this look better for the neighborhood. I will tell you, Mr. McGinnis, that the Phase 3 part of this is a misnomer. The PRD itself allows for this to be developed in any manner. Phase 1 is going to be first, of course. That's the hotel and the Hard Rock Cafe. But we could actually come in immediately after and develop Phase 3 if we had a market for it at that time. And we anticipate, to be honest with you, that once the Hard Rock is up, then there'll be a lot of people wanting to be in that area. And that shows how we've divided up Phase 1, Phase 2, and Phase 3. This shows, I don't know if you recall, but when the Lennox access had to be removed, we made an agreement with the county in which we would provide compensating parking. And even though it was sort of a ragtag area of asphalt, we decided that there was about 23 parking spaces there. So we've done 2 things. We are providing a new public access, landscaped, bicycle, handicapped public access on the south side of the hotel. No, I'm sorry, the north side of the hotel. And on top of that, near Wisteria, we're also building a new beach access and new parking lot, landscaped, of course, that will be open to the public as well. This is showing what the original site was looking like. As you can see, Lennox was in poor shape. The house, the building itself is in poor shape. The neighborhood, the houses behind this area is in good shape. We like those houses. Unfortunately, this area is not so hot. This is one of the reasons I'm so excited about this, because what I am looking at is in 2 years, this whole area will be new, totally different. This is the new Tomstead Veterans Memorial Bridge that's being built. Its timing for construction is the same as Hard Rock. This is going to be built and constructed right around the time completed, right around the time that Hard Rock is completed as well. This will be one of the major accesses to Hard Rock because Hard Rock is right between the access to this bridge and 92. And this shows the one of the elevations from the beach side. And now I'm going to bring up, come on up, John. John Ott is the project manager, and John is going to take you through what we're actually doing on this site, and I think you'll be very excited by this. And John, why don't you? What happened to our thing? There we go. Go ahead.
John Ott, 2601 West Hall Lane, Maitland, Florida.
We need to get you to fill a green sheet when you're done.
I'll do that. Okay. Thank you. I know you have a lot of information you've been given through the PD, the staff report, so what I'd propose to do is to take you through some highlights, some visual enhancements and clarifications of information that's in that package, and also these are some of the main items that we've been asked questions on and to address. So as a refresher and a summary, this is just summarizes the program of our Phase 1, which is our 250-room hotels, hotel rooms that are in a 12-story podium, or a 12-story element, and it expresses itself in this area here with the hotel. On top of that, we have 17 floors of condominiums up to a count of 120 condominiums.
Tourist accommodations.
Tourist accommodation units, thank you. Included in this is 20,000 square feet of meeting space, which is a very important component to a Hard Rock hotel. 250-seat Hard Rock Cafe, which will include 100 outdoor seats that are on the patio overlooking the pool, and I've got blow-ups of these plans I'll go through here in a second. Parking is accommodated with 120 subterranean spaces underneath the podium and underneath the property, as well as a 350-car garage. There's a 120-seat lobby lounge in the property, as well as a rock spa and a body rock, which is the fitness center for a branded Hard Rock. And then additionally, there's a thing called a jam room studio. One of the amenities that Hard Rock has, if you're a hotel guest, is you can check out instruments and go into the instruments and play it. You can, if you're in there with your buddies from high school, your drummer, you do this, you can have a green room, you can make a recording and walk out with a demo tape. So there's an instrument checkout program in a jam room in the Hard Rock. And then lastly, a large animated feature pool and bar and grill on the pool deck. Phase 2 in the PD, Phase 2 right now, our placeholder, there's about 943,000 square feet remaining in the zoning for Phase 2 and 3. An 8,000 square feet signature restaurant and 600 condominiums or use are in the second phase. And then third phase, as Glenn had said, the uses are commercial, retail, dining offices, complementary uses that we think will enhance the experience for the Hard Rock guests in that development. And as Glenn said, there's no zoning variances requested for that Phase 3 parcel. So some of the benefits I know they've talked about, but we believe that it is a long, vacant oceanfront property. The property will create over 400 permanent jobs in the operation of the property itself, as well as additional jobs through contracted services such as marketing, advertising, maintenance. And then we have a new, I'll show you, landscape lighted, safe pedestrian and bicycle handicapped access on the north side of the property to the beach. We think that the quality of this asset will help increase the land values. The restaurants and the beach amenities I'll show you are engaged to embrace the public and to enhance and to have public access, so it's not a closed environment. I'll show you. And then lastly, we are incredibly proud to be part of what we see is a positive momentum in helping the growth of Daytona Beach. So I know this is small, and it is in your package, so you can see it. But just at a high level, this is a site plan of the overall development. And as you can see, the red line demarks Phase 1 and Phase 2, Phase 1 being to the left and the Hard Rock property. This is in alignment with Ribald Avenue. We've got three main curb cuts that we're proposing from left to right. This one is the parking garage on the left side of the property. The main entrance is in alignment with Ribald, and we appreciate both the county and the city have had positive resolutions in support of a traffic signal at that location, which we think will help us as well as guests and locals coming across the street to go to the pedestrian access. And then thirdly, there's a curb cut on the right side that will be to the third phase. We've got four areas of egress off of the beach. This one is the ramped one that is on the landscaped and the pedestrian access way from A1A. There's one I'll show you coming up to the main feature pool, one at each end, and then one for Phase 3. To orient you, when you come in, there's a roundabout that will divide the two phases. To the left, this is the lounge, the lobby, and the concierge. So this is the main area of the Hard Rock, and there's a larger plan, so I'll show you. And then back of house and the garage. So that's the orientation. And then Phase 2 is right now a placeholder for a 600-unit building there. So at a larger scale, this is what we're proposing for the first phase. During the development of the first phase, Phase 2 will be a lawn that we have requested use as events and overflow parking. And what we've done is we've put a landing here so that in the event we have an event here, our hotel can check in here, get credentials, and go to a tented or possible event. Or if there's an overflow parking for event, you can come in, get credentials, and go to the event. So what we've done is we've created a symmetrical landscaped entrance with lush landscaping with an array of Sylvester palms. And then you come in here and you can either drop off valet, in which case they go underground to park, or a self-parker will come out on and self-park into the garage. This is the area of the feature pool, and then I've got a blow-up later I'll show you of a large event lawn. So just to show you that we went, when the first meetings that we went to, the garage was actually aligned perpendicular or parallel to the property line. So what we did was we moved it off and increased the view to the ocean. We had comments from the public about wind and about the view. So we actually moved the garage over. So now we're 40 feet to a one-story mechanical space, 62 feet actually from the property line to where the corner of the garage is. And then past the mechanical, it again goes to 42 feet. So here you can see the landscaped area of that walkway. And then here's a rendering that goes through. It shows you the wideness of it. And what we've done, a textured colored rock salt. And what we've done is I did this. I used to be in charge of the hotel development at Disney in a previous career, is you take these plants and you can trowel them in. So we figured that would be a great motif for the pedestrian walkway going to the beach. A little bit of the design vision, I'll tell you, is that we looked at a simple, elegant design that evokes speed and motion being here in Daytona Beach. So the balcony elements dissolve away so that we want the building to have an appearance of being steadfast into the wind. So the design architecture is to give the impression of motion for the building. The rock spall level in the middle is recessed in where the columns express themselves, and it shows as a transition space between the podium where the lobby and the ballroom is. And our intent there is to have that as a gloss red base that the elegant tower rises from. And then the hotel facade reveals itself as a signature element in the building, and then the condominiums rise above. The other thing we did was we studied a number of shapes of the building. This building, while it's actually the most expensive of the options, but it gave us 100% ocean views, it gave us minimum shadow blockage, and it gave us minimum wind blockage for the neighborhood. So that's the reason the building is oriented as it is with a double-loaded corridor perpendicular to A1A. So as a blow-up to walk you through, when you come in the ground floor, if you come out of your car, you go right through the lobby. The back side of the lobby is all glass, so you get this magnificent view of across the pool and the ocean. Now, A1A is at elevation 12, so you come up the drive, so the lobby is at elevation 17. So you're 5 feet above it. The seawall's at 12. So that lobby is the large part that'll give you a view over a tiered pool going down to the seawall. And the elements are the lobby lounge is on the right. The lobby is this long linear space, and then this is the Hard Rock Cafe with an indoor-outdoor bar and a stage. So you can see the public and the food and beverage elements are continually loaded single across the back of the building, so the entire building has views of the ocean all the way across.
John, talk to them about how the size of the Hard Rock Cafe and how that will actually open up into the grass area.
That's a different slide.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But I will. So let me show you how the Hard Rock Cafe opens up onto the pool. What we did, as if any of you have been to Hollywood or Tampa, some of the Hard Rocks, you know that an entertaining pool scene is one of the big drivers of the experience. So here we've got a large feature pool, and I'll just show you one of the things we've done. Here's the cafe, 150 indoor seats, patio seating all on the outside. If you know, by code, you have to have a fence around a pool. So this is the fence area. So if you can imagine, if you're inside here, you're a banded hotel guest. But this area over here, we expect with car, if you're going to park on the beach, where are you going to park? I'm going to park in front of the Hard Rock. So we expect guests to come in here, to have a drink, to buy a hamburger, and this is be a very active area where we want to embrace the public. So this area here is the part where the hotel guests would be, but everything else we fully expect to be animated and to be a place that you're comfortable in your flip-flops, you're coming off of the beach, you're sandy and thirsty, and that's the type of crowd we expect to be. So this hotel is going to embrace the public and invite them in, not put up a barrier to keep them out. Just to take you up, another element that we think is really going to stand apart, not only in the marketplace but in the United States. When you come up the lobby and you go up the grand stair, you've got the ballroom level here with the elevated lobby overlooking the hotel lobby. And if you'll notice, these meeting rooms look out over the ocean. There's a pre-function area with windows. There's another meeting room here over the lobby outside. And what that does is, it's rare to see meeting rooms that have glass and have areas that that let you see the outside. And the inspiration for this is these are the meeting spaces in the Hard Rock Hotel San Diego. After my previous career at Disney, I was head of development for Hard Rock before I joined Bayshore. And this is the boardroom of the Hard Rock Hotel in San Diego, seen from inside the two-story lobby. And here it is, and you've got views out to the convention center and the marina beyond. Here's an incredible meeting space with glass. So the old days of where you'd come into a closed windowless room and see your PowerPoint presentations are gone. So they're now very lively, multi-dimensional, high media rooms. So we think that these meeting rooms will be not only a differentiator in this market, but rare in the United States. So we're very proud of this design. The other element behind here that we think will be an incredible one is that there's a 200-foot long, 16,000 square foot event lawn behind the garage. This is actually a bonus because of we're asking for no variances from FDEP. We're honoring the coastal construction line. And because we're doing that, we got this bonus of all this land on the other side of the land that I can't build anything on. So what we've got is we've designed vehicular access through the garage. So if you have an event there, you can bring NASCAR, race cars out there, and you can stage other types of events. So this, we figure, will be the destination for weddings, for corporate meetings, for tented events. And I'm anxious to see who fights over trying to rent that thing during speed weeks. Another element I show you to the lobby is the waveform of the lobby continues that expression of motion and the honoring of the ocean location. And then on Atlantic Avenue, we asked the request of the TRT. We have a 12-foot wide colored textured walk along Atlantic Avenue with lush landscaping that we intend to give you reveals. If you know when you go down South Beach, you see in a driveway and then there's landscaping and you catch another reveal. We have altered the elements and varied the forms to try to make it an inviting elevation on A1A to avoid some of the other locations that you may not be enamored with in your town. We've got the box on the lobby lounge is a metal box form. We've got the lobby that will be a combination of precast and stone. The elements of the podium is a gloss metal panel, and then I'll show you a little close-up, something larger of the garage here in a second. Some of the vignettes, just to give you the feel for what you'd feel, because Atlantic Avenue is a big question for the city and for the neighbors, is make it lush, make it large, make it wide. So this will give you a view of what you see looking south through the bus drop-off and our entrance. And then this is another element, and Hard Rock has worked with us. We've put recessed cases in there where we'll have a rotating display of rock and roll artwork that'll be out there on A1A on the street. Example of our street lights, it's a extruded aluminum for a coastal environment. It's a LED, completely shielded light. And then we'll work through our site planning submittal with the colors of the insets of the lights. And then the other question we got asked was, our PD says, illuminated, internally illuminated sign. And the question was, what is that? Is that that could be a box sign like a 7-Eleven. So what we did was we illustrated what we mean by that. So, for example, and there's a monument sign here when you come in, and then there's a sign for the lounge and a sign on the porte cochere. So we are bound by the Hard Rock standards, so the three types of signs that you would typically see, this is likely what will be on the top of the building, and then the opportunities for the podium, they either use a halo-lit logo sign, this is the one they have in Chicago, brushed steel halo-lit, this is San Diego, or sometimes a face neon. So I could tell you that that sign on the monument will be one of those three, the design yet to be determined. The restaurant sign will be more of a sophisticated manner, and we did this to answer the questions for both the South Atlantic Redevelopment Board and the city to give them indications of what the quality level of the signs would be. So this is the lobby lounge, and it may be, but it'll be sophisticated. It could be halo lit metal or backlit cut lettering. And then lastly, the sign over the porte cochere, we've got two design choices, and the reason I say we haven't done it yet is Hard Rock is a constituent in improving the design, so we're still working with them on improving the design of their hotel. But it will be one of two things. It will either be a face-lit brushed stainless steel, or it will be a surface face-lit neon for the porte cochere sign. And then lastly, our PD shows the guitar sign on the side of the garage, and these are examples of Dallas or of Seattle. Now, I don't know how many of you know rock and roll guitars, but the Seattle guitar was the blue Mustang Stratocaster that Kurt Cobain played, and we hung it upside down because we were trying to be a little bit irreverent because it's the home of grunge. So we are talking to Hard Rock. I don't know what Dwayne Allman played, but we will pick a guitar that has its heritage based in the local music heritage here of Daytona Beach. And then what I wanted to show you here, this is a blow-up of the lobby, of the garage. In order to make the garage more attractive on Atlantic Avenue, we're cladding the garage in a perforated metal so that you don't see the headlights and you don't see the ugliness of the cars on Atlantic Avenue. So this is an example. And what we've done is, to do that, we're using metal of varying size perforations. And when you do that, you can get a textural appearance on that that area, and we'll explain a little bit of what we're hoping to do there is also to project on it. So this is an example of what you can do just by varying the size of the holes. You can give the appearance of texture in that metal. This is an example, what we requested people, so what is that? So this is an example of an event at the Hard Rock in San Diego, where it's simply a static presentation of the logo of a company that had rented the ballroom. Another example, this is a Virgin Media, where they painted the logo onto the building. And then the other one we've looked at is there's a thing called projection mapping, where you take multiple lenses through a computer control, and they stitch together to one large image. So this is an example. For example, they took a building and projected on it and made it basically look like a Coca-Cola. So this is a topic. Yes.
I didn't want to, and the neighborhood had a little bit of concern that we were going to do movies or something on this. And I want to make it very clear, and we're going to make it clear in our PUD itself. These are single projections. This is not moving pictures. This is going to be something that simply adds some little pizzazz to the area, but it will not have changing images or animation. However, now on the other hand, the projection that we have on the beach side during non-turtle nesting season, we may decide to put movies up there for the kids as part of the exciting parts of this, what we're doing. So that's okay, but on the side dealing with the neighborhood, I want to make it clear that's not happening, no animation. Okay?
And actually, Hard Rock does have a program in their pools called Dive-In Movies, and they actually, at Orlando, the movie scene for the kids, they show kids' movies out there quite a bit. So ultimately, this is why we're here. I thank you for your time, and I meant to tell you to interrupt me anytime during questions. I get excited and went through it, so at this point, you can interrupt me.
Because I want to share one more thing with you. We've also been working with the county. The beach itself is part of what we're dealing with, the resort. This is a resort that we hope people will come to, that they'll pay higher dollars to stay in this Hard Rock resort than they would normally, and a rising tide lifts all boats. So we're hoping this will also increase the rental rates for the entire area. One of the things we're doing to incorporate our resort image is working with the concessionaire and with the county so that all the umbrellas and all the equipment on the beach side in front of Hard Rock will be Hard Rock umbrellas, purple with Hard Rock logos on them. So that's the sort of thing we're looking at. It will seem like you're in a resort. All right. So any more questions, guys? I mean, every time I see this, I get excited. Anything, any questions?
Any more questions?
Okay,
All right.
Reed?
Mr. Berger?
I'm going to Tim sign.
I guess I want to, first of all, start off by saying that you saw the projected image, and through all the list of waivers that were requested that are in your report, the issue of that projection is really a sign under the current ordinance. So we want to make sure, and I think the applicant will address that as a waiver in their agreement. Is that correct?
That's correct. We made a list of the waivers that we anticipate that we'll be using. The projection, in an abundance of caution, we would add that as a waiver to the sign ordinance in the same manner that we've talked about, where the projection will be static on the one side and the projection on the other side will be potentially animated. Okay?
Potential. All right. Continue.
And I just wanted to point out that in my memorandum to you, the cover memo, I did point out, some of the key issues, and if you have any questions, I think that's where I was focused, and we've addressed, I think, just about everything that's in there. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Any questions of staff? Thank you, Mr. Berger.
Okay, thank you.
Might I remind you that we will be using 2 minutes to express for or against on this item. First one on the agenda, Mr. Bauer will be speaking for.
Thank you. I'm Carl Bauer. I'm here to represent the Harbor Beach Association. I'm a board member. The Harbor Beach Resort is immediately adjacent to the north of Hard Rock. Mm-hmm. We're now going to be, and while I say I'm for, we are for, we're excited about the project. However, we're not happy about the public access that's being put in. That's public access, the public beach access will now be directly on our south border. We already have the splash park, which has public access on the northern border of our property. When that was put in, we had to increase our security expenses. Again, we were happy with that. It's a good addition. It's an amenity for our guests, too. But we had to increase our security costs because of people wandering onto our property, trying to park on our property after it's closed. And we're concerned about that beach access. There's no parking provided. There's no delineation between that. There's no fence or wall or barrier between that beach access, that public access. There's no allowance for a drop-off for people coming from Orlando visiting the beach who may not want to drive on the beach for whatever reason. They're going to be trying to use our parking lot, and we are very limited on our parking. We don't have ample parking for our property. We're 150-some unit property, and we hardly have enough. I don't think we have 150 spaces. I know we don't. I can't remember what it was, but parking is a real big problem for us, and that's what we're really concerned about. We have some other questions that we hope you'll consider, such as who's going to provide security for this? Is it going to close during the beach access? If the beach access is allowed, could it be moved to the south end of their property? Mm-hmm. Since you already have public access 50 feet away on the other side of our property, wouldn't it make more sense to move it to the south end of their property? But if it has to be, and we closed off Lenox and lost those 27 parking places, again, we're going to have a problem, because there's no parking provided for this beach access. But if it is has to be there, who's going to provide security for it? what hours of operation is it going to have? Is it ever going to be closed? Is it going to be 24 hours a day? Who's going to close it? Is that going to be a city expense having to come in? Who's going to take care of the landscaping? What kind of lighting is it going to have? These things don't seem to be addressed in this wonderful plan that they have. They just show it, and we hope you'll consider
All right.
those items, especially some kind of a wall or fencing or something to
Okay.
delineate that from our property.
Good.
Thank you.
The comments, I'm sure, will be answered and responded to by the applicant at the end of the session.
Thank you.
At the end. Please. Okay. Leah Hutchinson, against.
Hi. I'm the Vice President of the R.J.
Step up,
Longstreet
please.
Elementary School PTA. Oh, sorry.
Step up, please.
Sorry. I am the Vice President of the R.J. Longstreet Elementary School PTA, and I've been busy planning our fall carnival tomorrow, and so I haven't been able to attend many of the Santa meetings. So I'm not sure if they had clarified this, but my family has lived in the house that I live in now for about almost 100 years, and we have had the ocean view and the ocean breeze since I was a little kid, and I guess there's no preventing losing that, which is like really sad. But I wanted to ask if they, when they were showing the projector on the screen, where they showed the access, they kind of made it seem like we would still have the ocean view, or I couldn't really tell if it was like through their glass, or, and I understand they want to put the beach access, like this gentleman was saying, it's like 50, or right next to the splash park, so why wouldn't we just go to the splash park, which is not really convenient for us. The parking that they said that they put in at Wisteria is 5 miles away. It's not really relevant to the beach access that they have given. And we, if it's going to happen, if they're going to do it anyways, which is fine. I love the idea of Hard Rock. I think it's going to be fantastic for Daytona. I hope they'll hook up the PTA a little bit. But if we're really more concerned about traffic, if we can do a right turn only from Lenox onto South Atlantic, so that we're not having the in and out traffic on our street. We kind of have that problem anyways, but I think it'll be a little bit more increased with the parking and all the lots of people that are going to be going to the Hard Rock. Also, the palm trees, could they put them back on Lenox? They say that it's going to increase our property value, but I don't really see how it did that for like Main Street or Seabreeze. It didn't really seem to do that for anybody else. That's going to happen. We've been really doing good about coming up. Like, people are moving in and fixing up their houses, and it's finally coming. And the last thing that we were concerned about was restricted parking. Making sure that if they're not going to the Hard Rock, like in their parking garage, if they're not parking on our street. My husband and I, like, he parks in the street and I park in the driveway, so we need our spots.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, speaking against Ms. Betty Mackey.
Sorry. Hi, my name is Betty Mackey, and I'm at 636 Lenox Avenue. I had written down something, which I'm going to cover a little bit, but I'm going to really try and skip through this. I have the adjacent property that's next to where the Hard Rock is requesting a change to the RPD for Phase 3, right on the corner of Lenox and A1A. And I purchased that house over 20 years ago because of the view, the breeze, the access to the beach ramp. And my husband and I have raised 4 wonderful children there. We have a grandson who's 2. His middle name is Ocean. And ironically, now I will not see the ocean from my house, my porch, nothing, because of the parking garage and them closing the ramp. I realize Hard Rock is bringing in economical value to Daytona Beach, but they continually say how they're trying to work with the neighborhood. I don't feel that's true. And I've heard it at every single meeting. He's trying to work with the neighborhood, he's trying to work with the neighborhood, but I have not seen it. And every time I go to one of these meetings, I see them just come in, do their big presentation, not follow any of the rules that are set out by the city, and you guys just let them do it. And I really think it's wrong, and I am against giving them the right to change the redevelopment zoning so that they can have carte blanche. They need to be restricted by the same rules that every other business has that resides in Daytona Beach. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mackey. Speaking against.
Yeah, like my wife said, we live at 636 Lennox, just on the end of the road. How many of you guys were on the commission in 2004? None of you? Well, how many of y'all remember the fight that we had with the city of Daytona, okay, about this stuff? The stuff that was put in here. You called our houses blighted, okay? They did a real good job of that. And they said, oh, redevelopment area. Well, today when I was speaking to Senator Huckle, okay, because go to the next big dog up, all right? That's what I did. She seemed real interested in the fact that were there state or federal grants used for this redevelopment area? Because you're not listening to us. We live there. And every time we come to these meetings, the snake oil salesman, they sell you this bill, okay? And it's really getting bad because you're giving them carte blanche to do what they want. They don't care about us. Number one, there wasn't going to be any of this outside concert venue. There wasn't going to be any of this loud music after the current curfew. Now, what are they asking for? Both, okay? Now, I got a light show outside my bedroom window all over the thing. But yet, you guys made them take the parrots down on the hotel just up the street. Okay, they had to erase that. But yet you're going to let them do this. No. And I called a minute ago, before you jumped on that boat, I raised my hand to be recognized. I wasn't recognized. Yet, you let one of them come up here and speak and said, please fill out a green form after you're finished. How does that work out? Who's got the money wins? Is that how this works? Evidently, that's what's going on. Okay? Because they've got the money, they do what they want. What we want doesn't matter. Now, you talk about the drive-through. Have you all been around Burger King, McDonald's, been around the White Castle up there, the Crystals? Not right around it, the roads around it, to see the trash laying out in the street where the people throw them out the window of their cars after they go through the drive-through. Think about it. That's what's happening with that stuff.
Please, no applauding. Thank you. Is that George? Pronounce your last name for me, please, sir.
George Toulouse. You can call me Cajun George. Everybody does.
Okay. All right.
All right. We had some, the people of Hard Rock Cafe came in to tell you that they did cooperate with the neighborhood is completely false. They know very damn well in all the neighborhood, every single property across the street has signed petitions against the closing of Lennox. Every single owner, everyone, they did sign a petition against the closing of Lennox Avenue. Now, are we within the law? That's the primary thing. Are we within the law with that project? Florida has passed law barring towns from taking property over and handing it over to developers unless the neighborhood is completely blight. Ribault, Lennox, and Sears does not meet that criteria under RS 14-107.3. I think you should check that yourself, Ms. Carey. The same people that did promote that project under the county are under investigation today by the FBI, and they have voted to investigate it themselves. It's a rotten. They voted to investigate it themselves. The Florida Constitution, beach below light the high water line is held by the state in trust for all people, not the county, not the city. The county didn't have any right to give the Lennox Avenue ramps to the contractors. It's in the Florida Constitution. On December the 2nd, 2012, a year ago, the Supreme Court of the United States, on the biggest case of all time since the 1600s, on the main shore, the seafloor exposed to low tide in a sense belongs to the public and cannot be given away. All filling has to be removed, and the court allowed the people over private property to access the beach. That's very significant. Tampa, the Ritz at Tampa has tried the court, and the high water below belongs to the public. New Jersey Supreme Court reinforced the high water law on July 2005. The latest case, no later than a month and a half ago, South Padre Island. A seawall was ordered demolished by the court on October 14, 2013, and all filling removed. The Florida Department of Environmental Protection Agency was decided by the Supreme Court of the United States on October 19, 2010. High water is the mark and belongs to the public. Wherever the sea goes at the high water mark, it belongs to the public. That's very clear. April 13, 2012, the Supreme Court of Texas, the beach and at the high water mark. The project is not grandfathered in any longer, and it doesn't meet the law.
Excuse me, sir.
With the wall removed, the sea will go 125 feet on the site.
Okay.
And that's exactly what we're going to claim.
Excuse me. If you would, that's very interesting. Could you submit that
30 seconds
in writing even after that?
Yes. Yeah, I'll give it to her if she wants it.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. No problem.
Thank you.
Now, the Rock Cafe wants gambling. It's obvious they want gambling in the future. The USA Today made a gigantic investigation at Atlantic City as far as gambling is concerned since it was approved in 1976. Unemployment is 20%. It's the most corrupt city in the United States, if not the world. People working on casino, none of them live in Atlantic City, and the city has become a gigantic slum area. This project is illegal and does not meet the Supreme Court latest rule. That's obvious. It cannot be approved, and the city will be held responsible if it does. It does not pass the smelling test. Thank you.
All right, sir. Thank you. Mr. Dennis, speaking as.
Thank you. My name is Mike Dennis, 625 Lenox. As you can tell, this is an emotional issue.
I can tell.
This meeting is to talk about the zoning variances that are being asked for. Okay. Now, my math comes up with 250 hotel rooms, correct? At 1.1 and 1/15 parking places per hotel room, correct? That's 266 parking places. Okay. 120 tourist accommodations, and they want 1.5 parking places for that. That's 180. The total of those two is 440. Mm-hmm. And we still have the restaurant and the convention area and all that to find parking places for. I don't think they have enough parking places. Another concern is the traffic flow. You've got the house next door on Rybalt that they bought. You've got a single dad with a 4-year-old son. I'm not sure how old John's son is, but a young kid. That's where the red light's going to be. That's going to be pretty difficult to have an interface with the Hard Rock egress and residential neighborhood. And that's really the problem, is a lot of this stuff has to do with how do you have a commercial entertainment, resort area, interfacing with private homes, private citizens, and so forth. You know, we're emotional. I'm emotional. You guys can sit there and look at it and from a overall picture, but keep us in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Bosquet? I tried.
Good evening. My name is Susan Bousquet.
Bousquet.
I live at 600 Lenox Avenue. And thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening. I appreciate it. On the green form, I was conflicted about whether to check for or against, because there are so many wonderful aspects to this exciting development. And there are some that are heartbreaking to those of us who live on Lenox and Rybalt, the streets that are directly and immediately impacted. I'd like to say that I've met Mr. Storch. I've had the opportunity to speak with Mr. Ott and Mr. Wolfend, and I do believe that they're very proud of this development and will want to do the right thing for them and minimize the harm to the community. I do believe that they have that perspective. I wanted to share with you the perspective of some of my neighbors. I can't speak for all of them, but we talk and visit and chat. We spend a lot of time at Lenox Park, and some people have said to me that they're not coming to this meeting tonight because it would be a waste of time. Everybody knows Hard Rock is going to get whatever it wants. The city officials are so desperate for development of any kind and so dazzled by the Hard Rock brand that they'll get the blank check. So I'm simply here to say, please prove them all wrong. Just please be deliberate and thoughtful and careful in your judgments and deliberations. Please remember that we live in a beautiful, tranquil, beachside neighborhood. I know that our councilman, Joshua Wagner, referred to it as a third world country. I concede that some improvements are warranted, but we don't want to jump from the third world to Times Square. My comments tonight are simply to say, please think very carefully about each request, and please keep us in mind. I ask that very respectfully and appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. John Anderson, speaking against.
My name is John Anderson. I live 159 Congress Avenue. How you doing, Mr. Walton? I'm not up here to be contentious tonight. I'm up here to speak for this group of people because we're right back at the same old diagram again. The city wants to do something. Hard Rock has a good idea. I'm from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Hard Rock came in there, but there was a difference there. One company owned all the property Hard Rock went on to, and Hollywood, Planet Hollywood went on to. So there wasn't the big dickering deal going on here. Again, a neighborhood is looking at being totally disintegrated by this. I've been thinking about traffic patterns. I think about people. And I've watched this city, the lady just said, selling the soul to the devil for the money. I watch people sit up here and smile and think this is a grand put-up deal for people to come here and beg for their neighborhood. Well, folks, I want to tell you what, I live one paycheck from being on the street. And it is not funny to think about losing your home. This is a good deal for the city of Daytona. It's not a good deal for a neighborhood. Planet Hollywood is an absolute good deal. Or Hard Rock, excuse me, I'm sorry. Going back to number 6 about the entrances and exits on ISB. It wasn't allowed back then because ISB was a lot smaller street and the traffic congestion was a lot worse. I remember days when you couldn't get to the beach side on Mason, Orange Avenue, and ISB for traffic backed up going to that beach side. Beach side's not prepared for that now. It's got to be done at slow increments. It can't be just bang. I realize this thing's not going to be there till 2015. It's got to be done slowly. It's got to be have every person sit down and listen to what. I don't know how long most of y'all have lived here, but I've talked to people from that neighborhood the past few days. Their life is there. And when I hear people talk, it breaks my heart to hear people talk about, I bought my home because I could sit across the street and see the beach and the sunrise. Wow, that sunrise is going to look real good through the windows of a hotel, ain't it? But it is a good idea. Don't get me wrong. It's a good idea, but you've got to think about the citizens, please. I'm asking you, and God's asking you. Please. I know there's people here that think I'm full of crap. Excuse me if that's abrasive language. But my heart's in this city. I've been here since 75 working at that Speedway. I remember what that beach side was like, and I feel like we're spinning our wheels, man. We're tearing down stuff, and in 20 years we're wanting to put it back and spend dollar. And if you're going to rezone everything for one group, are you going to do it for the next group? You're going to continue on doing it to the next group? The next group, where will it stop? Do you have nothing? Thank you. I know I'm over my limit. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay. We have one other guest. John? You didn't say whether you were for or against this time.
Absolutely for it.
Thank you.
John Nicholson, 413 North Grandview Avenue. I go to a lot of meetings, and one of the gentlemen is talking about whether we were allowed to give away the Lennox or not. You forget that we gave it away 30 years ago when, in order to keep the driving on the beach, the city gave away to the county not only the beach, but all the accesses as well. So we have no control. The City of Daytona Beach, this board, has no control over whether we lost that approach or not. That was lost 30 years ago. 20 years ago, we decided to redo how we calculated how big a building could be built on the beach. The larger the property, the higher the building. This particular property could have had a footprint of 250 feet wide. We did not anticipate when that happened. There were only 3 places that could have happened. We did not anticipate the county giving away the approaches. Hard Rock could have devastated this neighborhood like they did mine. I have 2 250-foot wide buildings, Ocean Walk, in front of my home. I don't see the sunrise until 11 o'clock. It has been a boon to all the businesses on A1A, and trust me, I don't even know they're there. It's not a bother to me one way or the other. People have been purchasing houses in the neighborhood and fixing them up. When you look at this, they decided that that was going to be a blighted neighborhood because that's how you get a CRA. However, none of the houses in which these people live in, except if they live on A1A or the one house next to it, was ever indicated as being a blighted house. Peter Colt fought against that. None of them have the distinction of being called a blighted neighborhood. Only A1A fits that distinction. People forget that it's not always been vacant. They forget the hotels that were there. The Monaco, the drug dealing, the prostitution, the nightlife. It was a horrible, horrible location. They may sit there and say, well, for the last 10 years, it's been very nice. There's been nothing there. We can see the sunrise. Well, there was a time when it was absolutely the worst place on the beach side. This will be an improvement over what had been there before. Thank you.
Okay. Board, your comments.
I haven't filled out a sheet, but I'll do it in a minute. I would like to speak.
Very well, then, please make sure you fill it out and hand it to the clerk.
Hi, my name is Prashant Patel. Address is 808 South Atlantic Avenue. I'm speaking for Hard Rock. The person was speaking about it, that area, I grew up right there at the hotel, at Economy Inn. I have seen a lot of prostitution, drug dealings, and all that, you know, when the hotels were there before. I would love to see, you know, great change, you know, coming into town when, you know, the vacant lot is going to sit there if there's no developer going to come. And by developing that area would increase our business too. And it's going to increase there's something to do in Daytona. When the tourist comes, there's only one spot, go to Pier. But I mean, movie theaters. But how many people want to go and watch movie? They want to go to beach. They want to, they want something exciting. I mean, it's like, they want to go somewhere. There is no attraction on the beach area. I mean, especially in Daytona. About fast food restaurants, majority of the restaurants are all pretty much in Ormond Beach. There is not many places to eat on A1A unless you go to the Ocean Walk Shoppies. And, some restaurants southbound of International Speedway will be great too, because that area there's no restaurants or nothing. Starbucks, any kind of restaurant, Taco Bell, Wendy's, nothing there to eat. Our guests, when they come to the hotel, they would ask, "Where's the good place to eat?" We have to tell them, "Hey, you need to go on International Speedway toward the Speedway area, or go in the Ormond." There isn't any choice in our area. I would suggest bring something to town where people. Tourists could go.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Patel. That brings an end to the public comment. Board?
Can I respond?
You need to respond? Please stand.
I think it'd be helpful. Again, for the record, my name is Glenn Storch, and first of all, I appreciate all the comments. Obviously, we've worked very hard to work with the neighborhood and with the neighborhood associations. We've been to several Santa board meetings. We've enjoyed them. We've been to neighborhood meetings further north as well. This is important to us because this is part of our community. I understand that the Lenox vacation was a difficult thing. It was important to the neighborhood, to the people in Lenox. It was also important to making this happen. And the county council looked very closely at that, and they followed the law. The law is that if you are going to vacate an area that provides public access to the beach, you have to replace it. And we've done that in two ways. We've done it by a 15-foot easement that we provided to the county on the, as you indicated, on the north side of our property, which will totally build, which, as you can tell from the pictures before, was really in poor shape before, and we're going to make it a beautiful access point, handicap accessible, bicycle accessible. That's 15 feet. On top of that, we're also giving another 50 feet with the parking lot and other public access further down the beach. So in return for the 60 feet of public access that for Lenox, we're giving 65 feet of beachfront property. That's how they looked at this. We're giving more than we were getting, and we've met that criteria. The public access has been important to us because it's important to the neighborhood, it's important to our neighbors. Originally, it was a 15-foot walkway next to the building. We heard the neighborhood that they wanted to see some more beach, that they wanted to have more of an access area. We moved the buildings over. I think in some areas there's what? John, didn't you say it was like 60 feet at some point?
60 feet high, the mechanical is 40 feet from the...
Right, so we're going from 15 feet to 40 feet just to provide that access area, lushly landscaped. We heard our neighbors at the Harbor condominium, and the understanding there was they did not want anyone parking in their neighborhood or in their parking lot and using this public access. And so we have the vegetation, maybe you haven't seen the plans, but the vegetation will not allow people to cross over from this public access into their parking area. Well,
Please.
and on top of that, we're also working with the county and with the city to potentially provide additional public parking for this area. It's something we heard you say, and so we're trying to work with you to help solve that problem. It's important to us, again, that we're a good neighbor. On the other hand, I do want to address a couple of these things. You're absolutely right. We don't necessarily want to trust the county. I shouldn't say that. We've worked with the county to let them know that we will be maintaining this property so that it will look like it's part of the Hard Rock process. We'll be providing maintenance. I'm sure our security people will be there as well. This is something that's important to us, that our guests feel very safe walking onto this because it ties into the Hard Rock project. So yes, we understand your concerns. We've dealt with those concerns. Hours of operation, I think, is a good point. We will look at how to minimize the hours of operation so that, but we'll have to work with our other neighbors who want this public access and wanted to make sure that public access was provided. So we'll be working together with both of you as to what you think is appropriate.
Work and put it on the south side of your property.
Well,
You start on the south side.
Please.
yeah, and I should tell you that, just to let you know, the mandate from the county was, the trade was for Lennox that we place it there and that we place the wisteria parking. That's part of the resolution. That's where we have to put it. Now, I will tell you this. We are, during the construction phase, because again, we want to treat our neighbors properly, we are building a temporary access on the south side of the property so that no access is ever lost for the neighborhood during that period of time. Now, the traffic issue, I think, is very important because, again, this neighborhood and how it is impacted is important to us. So what I'm going to suggest, first of all, we've brought it, we'll have our traffic consultant in. What I'm going to suggest is that we have another meeting with the neighborhood, and I've heard some ideas tonight, as a matter of fact, as to how we can deal with this, and, you know, such as a right turn lane only, you know, those sort of things that could help minimize any impact from the hotel to the neighborhood. So what I'm going to do is work with Dennis, and we'll schedule a meeting at the neighborhood association, bring our engineers in, our traffic consultants, and we'll work out what needs to be done for that neighborhood to make sure that we have no impact. And that will include the traffic signal. Now, don't forget, that traffic signal we're working on is going to be providing access from the neighborhood, a safe access from the neighborhood across the street into our sidewalk system and into our beach access. That's important to us, but at the same time, it can't do anything that impacts the neighborhood negatively from a traffic standpoint. So we're working together on that. Those were the main comments that I heard, and hopefully we're addressing them. We'll continue to address them. We will continue to work together because, again, this is good for the city, but it has to also be good for the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
If you had a reload, can I have a reload?
Board.
Mike Dennis, 625 Lennox. One of the points Glenn made was when the county abandoned the Lennox approach, it was legal. That is not true. County ordinance, it's 22 or 20-83 says if you abandon a property, you must provide equal or superior access within 1,000 feet. And what happened was the county attorney at that meeting said, well, we did it in 1996 with Orr Avenue. We ignored that law, and we're going to ignore it again. Thank you.
Okay, board. Comments?
I have comments.
Mr. McGinnis?
I'm really upset that we have members of the public asking us to minimize harm to the community. When we have citizens coming up and saying, please minimize the harm, it's very upsetting. The way we have been minimizing the harm to the community over the years is by adopting oceanfront standards, adopting parking standards, adopting setback standards, adopting width of building standards, part of the oceanfront standards, no building wider than 250 feet. This building is almost 500 feet wide. Unless we abide by our standards, it doesn't matter what the brand of the hotel is. This could be the ABC Hotel. It doesn't make any difference. If we refuse to abide by our standards, the citizens are still going to be coming up saying, please minimize the harm to us, because that lady was correct. Our boards keep giving in to the developers, and I just refuse to do it. We have standards for a reason. We can't keep changing the standards. And it doesn't matter whether we take 5 of these 10 standards that they're asking deviations on, and we get a compromise on 5. We went to the trouble over the years of setting these standards, and yet I just don't understand. The developers come in and they say, well, we want to do this. And doesn't somebody say, gee, we don't allow a building more than 250 feet wide? Well, ours is only 498 feet wide. Not too bad. I mean, really, give me a break. So that's how we minimize the harm to the citizens. We have all of these things in place, and we should be following them. I certainly would follow them, so how could I possibly vote for this? And I have nothing against any particular brand of hotel. It wouldn't matter if it was the ABC Hotel, any hotel. It just doesn't fit with our standards. I mean, we either have a city with standards or we don't. And as long as we don't, we're continuing to do harm. That's it.
Okay. Anyone else care to comment on the board?
I had a question about the parking spaces. I wasn't quite clear on that. I think somebody addressed that, and I started to plug those figures together too, and I was coming up with something different, so.
Yeah, and I meant to mention that. We do have all the parking spaces required based on the standards in the.
For the exceptions, it's asked for.
That's right.
Does that include your restaurant is included there? Because I was wondering, and also how about the 100 seating space and the grass area you're talking about? Do you line parking spaces for those too?
The grass area will actually be potentially overflow parking. We will have sufficient parking. In fact, if you'll notice.
That's where you're going to have entertainment and movies and that sort of thing.
No. There's a grass area.
Seats out there.
The grass area behind is where we're having the movies and the entertainment.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
The grass area that's phase 2 could be used for parking.
Okay.
That's what we're looking at.
What happens when phase 2 goes in?
We put in more parking. We'll put in parking in that building that will be utilized by both parties. And I got to point out, if you look in your text, we believe we will have more than enough parking, as a matter of fact, and we have a provision in there that allows the public to use that parking and to rent that parking spaces if necessary during the times that we're not full. So we anticipate sufficient parking. And again, from a business standpoint, we have to have parking. That's really important.
Make a motion to approve rezoning.
I'm sorry, I had one. I was looking. I'm sorry, I had some pages here I'm going through. And I guess this is one for staff where they're, based on the proposed site plan, staff's recommend the following uses listed as principal uses in phase 1 and 2. Casino gambling establishments, cocktail lounges, alcoholic beverage sales and service, additional uses permitted in T1 zoning and special events be permitted only as accessory uses. So that limits anyone else from moving into that area and taking advantage of that. Is that
Correct.
am I understanding that
For the
correctly?
record, that's exactly correct. And that's why that originally was not worded that way.
Okay. Just a second. Now, the background noise, it seems like you've pretty well addressed that from.
Yep.
That would be an exception, though, wouldn't it?
No, we've complied. We're complying with the ordinance.
And then, of course, the width is the concern that was expressed by Mr. McGinnis, which does bother me. However, I understand the circumstance of what has to be done there.
It's a 10-acre parcel, and on top of that, some of the things I don't know if we've noticed here, but I mean, along that entire length of that parcel, we're going to put all underground utilities. You saw the entrance. This will totally change the face of that area.
Those were my questions.
Those were your questions. We've already reached a point here where we're at the board and there as far as comments.
Yeah. I just want to state that overall it's a wonderful project, but of course it raises a lot of questions.
It's a
Traffic
complex
pattern, community, making sure that we all citizens here, and we take care of one another, make sure our community is a good place to live. I have a question about pedestrian crossing from east to west, from one side of the street to the next.
That's what the traffic signal will be for.
Right. Okay, but a building that long, you're going to have folks, crossing different places besides in front of the traffic, in front of traffic lights. So those are just concerns I have, along with the lighting and the effect that the lighting might have on residents or things like that. Noise level was a big one for me. I know some things were done about that, but definitely that would be one of my concerns also.
I should point out on lighting, we're working closely with the county now to make sure this is all turtle-friendly lighting, and so you'll see this will be a model for what we can do in Daytona. And don't forget, this is the first new hotel built on the beachside in over 20 years.
Okay. And then, again, it goes back to the traffic that it would produce in infringing on other businesses or even residents. So those are some of my concerns that I have about this particular project. But overall, I think it will be an asset.
Well, hopefully we'll continue to work on addressing those.
Okay, and one final comment real quick. What about community meetings? I heard you said that you would have another community meeting set. How many have you had, and what was the...
We've had 2 so far with Santa, and then 1 with the area, the Ocean. That's right. Ocean. The people up at Snuppy Park. Yeah. Bel Air. Bel Air. We also met up with Bel Air. It's important to us, like I say, to continue this, and as we've told the Santa folks, we're going to continue to meet with them as we go through this process, the construction and everything else, because that's how we solve problems. In fact, they're the ones that gave us the idea for the wider area, the ones that gave us the idea for the bicycle-friendly, pedestrian access, handicapped access, and the temporary access.
Pretty much all the questions I had were answered, and the review as far as our board is concerned. We have one, Mr. Anderson, is it?
Yes, sir.
Would you please step forward?
I don't have to come up here. I can ask him right here, please.
No, it has to be in the records. It has to be in the records, so please come up.
I know that be done that way.
Oh, yes.
I have a question. I know Mr. Nickerson over here, we battled up here many times during bike weeks, and these folks here have had to battle with it. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I just asked the commissioner a while ago, there's a law in this town about the loud music continuously every night, and I remember Mr. Nickerson being up here and talking against different clubs and this, that, and the other, wanting to get permits, and the planning board turning these people down for this. Are we going to make another law for this, or is just one of these things we're going to sweep under the table and go on down the road?
I wonder if I can answer that.
What? Okay. That's why I came up here. I wanted you to answer.
Yeah. First of all, the law is you measure it decibels at the perimeters, not. I beg your pardon? That's right, and you measure it based on background plus. So we have no problem with that. We're going to meet those criteria.
Okay, that's all I want to know.
All right. And I think one of the reasons why we don't anticipate a problem is because we have such a large site. Mm-hmm. And I should point out this as well, because we've had a lot of discussions with our engineers. Technology has changed a lot. You can now focus music where it needs to be, just like you can focus lights where it needs to be.
All right. I'm ready. Are the board
Motion
ready?
to approve rezoning plan redevelopment district Hard Rock Hotel, DEV 2013-084.
Second.
We've heard the motion and the second. Do I hear? Board, what do I hear?
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
All nay?
Nay.
6-1, it passes.
Thank you so much, and I really appreciate your time that you spent on this. And I'm sure we'll come back and show you all the progress.
Give them a half a second to clear up. We're going back to number 4. Yeah. He's ready.
Want to give them a couple of minutes?
Yeah. We're going to number 4.
Let's let them clear up.
Yeah. I said yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you said do number 4.
I think I did too.
All right.
I think I did.
We'll have a 5-minute recess, please.
All right.
Wait, we got to make sure that IT's ready. IT's ready. Yeah, they're ready.
Item number 4, LSCPA Midtown Master Plan Development 2013-082.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Jason Jeffries with the Redevelopment Office. This item is essentially several items you're going to see in the next few months regarding the implementation of the Midtown Master Plan. Last year, the City Commission, or probably earlier this year, the City Commission adopted the Midtown Master Plan as part of its redevelopment plan for the Midtown area. And now we need to go through several administrative steps to rezone the area so that we can implement and have zoning that's consistent with the Midtown Master Plan. And the first step is to adopt these changes to the city's comprehensive plan. So the action before you is essentially to amend the designated future land uses in the Midtown area, generally along the major corridors, which will allow for the more intense developments that the Midtown Master Plan calls for. And it also makes text changes to the designated future land uses in the redevelopment element of the of the city's comprehensive plan. And all those text amendments are in your staff report. And also, you have an impact analysis of the suggested changes to the future land use in the Midtown area. I think I just note that one of the major changes is really impacting what is the theoretical maximum commercial development within the in the Midtown area by really putting the medium intensity mixed use in the area along ISB. And so there are traffic impacts and sewer and utility impacts related to that if the development was to be built at that level. And then you'll see in the report there is analysis that based on growth rates for the Daytona area, we don't expect to reach those maximum developments within 2025, which is our planning horizon. If you have any questions, Matthew West with the Lassiter Transportation who did the analysis is here. Any specific questions, or you have questions of the general Midtown Master Plan amendments requested here. I'll note that this has been before the Midtown Redevelopment Plan, the board. On September 10th is generally when they saw the major, they took action 7-0 recommending these changes. We did take an update to them at their October 8th meeting, which essentially was after the impact analysis was over. And staff does recommend the approval of these large-scale comprehensive plan amendments. So the process from here is to take to City Commission for them to transmit this to the state for their review. If there's any comments at that time, we'll make those revisions, address those comments, and then it'll be adopted by City Commission after it has the state review. So if there's any questions?
Any questions?
One thing, it's concentrating a lot of commercial, correct?
Yes.
Getting rid of residential.
There's
a lot of residential uses that weren't there anymore that switched to commercial.
So we're not really getting rid of residential because the Midtown Master Plan does preserve the single-family residential uses kind of in the interior. Where you're putting the commercial development and making some changes actually could increase the amount of residential because there's more mixed-use projects. Yeah, along the major corridor, especially ISB, to have that more urban look that the Midtown Master Plan calls for.
Yeah, my only concern was, I guess, when I went back with the traffic and such, but as you said, it's not expected for 2025 or occur within the next 50 years. That really wasn't it.
Yeah.
And also, as a representative from this board to the Midtown board, we have discussed it intensively and looked at the positioning of commercial buildings versus single dwelling homes and so forth. And it's really a wonderful plan that would enhance our city.
Any more questions? Any questions from our public? Anybody speaking for or against? All right. Board?
I think a lot of work has been done on this, as Mr. Bauer who explained. I think we're ready to go.
Okay.
Yeah. I make a recommendation that we approve the landscape comprehensive plan amendment DV 2013-082 Midtown Master Plan.
Second.
It's been motioned and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Next item, please. All right, Mr. Hurd.
I'm not used to my
Well, you better get with it.
I'm waiting
You
for
got
Kathy to follow.
to do more than just recommend.
Number 5, TCD, rezoning intercoastal bank development 2013-085.
Hear from staff, please.
Thank you. Dennis Mrozek, planner with the City of Daytona Beach. Again, this request is a request by Mark Doust on behalf of John Albright, President and CEO of Consolidated Samoka Land Company, to rezone 2.01 acres of land located at 2140 LPGA Boulevard from M4 Industrial Park to PCD Planned Commercial Development, and to approve a preliminary plat in conjunction with the rezoning to construct an 8,600 square foot bank with drive-throughs and associated site improvements. I'll give you a location of the site. The site is located on the north side of LPGA, approximately, I'd say about a quarter mile to the east of 95. I'll give you a pretty good idea where the location is. It's located right between the Vince Carter's restaurant and Wendy's restaurant on the north side over there. The current future land use is mixed use, and the current zoning is M4. And again, the proposed zoning is planned commercial development. Something I wanted to point out that the property is being rezoned to a planned commercial development to follow a comp plan requirement to do so for properties that are mixed use in this location. So if it's mixed use and our future land use designation is required to be rezoned to a planned commercial development. With this particular development, they are not requesting any waivers for the proposal. And we are also going to be completing a preliminary plat in association with this rezoning request. Just to give you an idea of the location and the layout, I've superimposed the plan for the site You can see the access to LPGA to the south. There's also access to Gateway North Drive to the north, which it shares with the Vince Carter's restaurant. I have some elevations for us, some artist renditions of what's being proposed. It's been reviewed by the city staff for design standards for major city thoroughfares. And as for a recommendation, staff does recommend approval to rezone the 2.01 acres of land from M4 to PCD and to approve the preliminary plat in conjunction with the rezoning. An affirmative vote of 6 is required to recommend approval to the City Commission. And that concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from staff?
I have a question. I noticed in this proposal there were like 5 signs. Does that fall within the makeup of the city, and where are the locations of the signs?
The signs that are proposed are all within compliance with what the code would normally require. There are two monument signs being proposed. One's going to be up on ISB. The other one's going to be in the backside toward Gateway North. And then the other signage is actually the wall signage.
You mean on LPGA?
LPGA. What,
Okay.
did I say ISB?
Yeah.
Wow.
LPGA, thank you. Yeah, and then the other sides are going to be the wall signs. And there are some identification signs on the property for identifying where the drive-throughs are to help people make their way around.
All right. Any other questions?
Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Board?
I have a comment.
Okay. You wait.
Comment.
Go ahead.
Okay. I applaud this applicant. I realize PCD is definitely, it's mandated in this case. But I applaud them for following design standards and not requesting any variances. It's always a pleasure to see a PCD that comes in that way.
Okay.
I would do the same comment. You know, this is an area that we've been waiting to develop out there. The Vince Carter, took the jump. Now the bank is coming. I think that the bank, hopefully the bank did all of their feasibility studies, because so much things are going to come out there that they're going to need the bank.
It will.
So,
Which is encouraging in itself.
Anyone from the public care to speak?
Well, actually, I didn't fill out a green form, which I'll need to do when I'm done, so I apologize for that. For the record, my name is Mark Doust, and I'm with Mark Doust & Associates, 536 North Halifax. Also with me tonight is Matthew Doust, who is another engineer who joined the firm within the last couple of years, and Bruce Teeters, formerly of Consolidated Tomoka, but he's also in charge of this transaction. So we have a good team, and Larry Robinson was the architect, and he just recently left. But I'm really here if you have any questions. We're looking for your support. We're excited to get the bank underway, and we think it will be a very nice addition to the city.
Well, I'm glad to see something else come out in that open area.
Yeah.
It would help us as far as the new and upcoming businesses, especially the new serving stations and other businesses, along with Vince Carter and all, to have a bank nearby that they can do business with. Plus, on my side of town. So
Yeah.
this is good.
Yeah, and actually, Vince Carter's and the bank have already established a pretty solid relationship, and they look forward to continuing that as they open.
And I also think the design is just welcome, and I do live in that area too, and to see more businesses and so forth coming in is definitely a plus.
Well, 2 things on the design. Larry Robinson obviously was responsible for the building, but the landscaping theme that you have and all that stuff, that was already established by staff previously. There's a set of covenants and restrictions, and basically you follow those things and try and do a good job, and that's what you come up with. So the standards for that were pretty much in place already.
Fantastic. And I won't miss you again.
I'll fill out a form next time.
Please.
motion to approve rezoning plan redevelopment district. No, I'm on the wrong one.
Yeah. 5.
Number 5.
Motion to approve PCD rezoning industrial bank development 2013-085.
Second.
There's been motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Betts. Next agenda item, please.
on number 8 now.
Yes.
Yeah, rezoning plan redevelopment district amendment, WC Grand Development 2013-087.
I might add that this has two parts. Okay.
Are we going to hear them separate?
You have to vote on them separate.
It's up to you guys. It probably would make sense to do them together in discussion because they're all.
Discuss them together, but vote separately. Yeah.
All right.
Also preliminary plat, WC Grand Development 2013-081.
All right.
Okay.
Mr. Berger.
Mr. Chairman, if I could too, as I did before, there is a better presentation than what I have, that the applicant has the prettier pictures, and if they could just go through that with you for a minute, and then I'm happy to answer questions afterwards.
All right.
If that's all right. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Board, Chris Chalice with White Chalice Redevelopment, 112 Orange Avenue, Daytona Beach. I'm here with Jack White, my partner, who'll be here in a moment. Actually, I guess technically we're here on behalf of WC Grand LLC, of which White Chalice is a member. Thank you all for the time tonight. We're proud to have been working on this project for quite some time. Some of you have been around for quite a while, and some folks are new for seeing us here. But this was an RFP that the city put out some time ago, and we were fortunate enough and honored to be the city's partner on this project, trying to bring forward an exciting residential project for this neighborhood, the same neighborhood that we've been talking about earlier this evening, with a much bigger project just down the street. We have been working on this for quite some time. In that period of time, we have come across, I think, a fantastic formula on another site that needed some work, and that's William Square that was here before you guys last year. It's under construction right now. It's just catty corner from where we are sitting and down a block. It is a 15 or 14 lot subdivision, single family detached city home project. And it's, as I mentioned, it's under construction. We started this summer, and we're about 2 weeks, I think November 4th, we should complete and have this final inspections, and we're scheduling our closings for later this year. And we've got we only have about half the units left to sell. So that's been very exciting for us. And so what we realizing some of the challenges that we've had on this project, on the WC Grand, and the way the market has responded to this project, William Square, we thought it was a great opportunity for us to take that model that is working very well, we've got some good experience on, and transition to that. The transition is actually quite small. I bet I could go build this thing tomorrow. Most folks probably wouldn't even know the difference between the two. On the right on your screen here is the plan that is currently approved. It is 17 townhomes, single-family attached townhomes with rear entry 2-car garages, internal alleyways, and each of the units would have a rear entry 2-car garage. And then that's a stormwater pond there in the center. And then on the other side of the screen, new plan is the plan that we're proposing tonight in the PD amendment. The changes are twofold. One, we're going from 17 single-family attached units to 15 single-family detached units. So you can see that the plan is almost unchanged from what we have proposed. But what this allows us to do is to go forward. If things go well for us here, and then of course with City Commission as well, we're working on our financing now and getting ready to close on that probably January and start construction immediately after that. And so we're very excited about the opportunity to begin work on this thing virtually immediately. We will still have the same high level of that's the picture of William Square under construction about a month and a half ago. It'll still have the same level of architectural requirements. We've carried forward. That's the rendering I'd point out that's the rendering for the WC Grand in the current entitlement. We carried forward that architectural detail requirement into this PD. The project will have, in addition to the architectural requirements in the PD agreement, that the city will review at building permit stage. We also established an HOA that has an architectural review board with covenants and restrictions. Jack and myself will be the architectural review board. And for those of you all familiar with Jack's work, he's got fairly good taste. So that is it in a nutshell. Again, going back to from 17 single-family attached to 15 single-family detached units, a small change in the landscape plan because the projects, you'll see the lots will sit slightly differently. But other than that, that is it in a nutshell. I'm here, of course, to answer any questions, and Jack is happy to get up and answer questions as well.
I don't have a question, just a statement. I like the idea better of the single-family lots, and we're seeing, I'm sure as you all did, trending on the beach side to people moving back to the beach, to the single-family lots, fixing them up. The neighborhoods are flourishing, and I think it's a good idea.
Thank you. We certainly have seen that. In fact, the slide here, this was a good example. This is just down the street on Goodall. This is a good comp for us. This was a tear down. It was purchased and tore down, and then a new home built, and similar style. Now, of course, it's a single family lot, so they're going to have the front load garage and that sort of thing, which is different from ours. Ours are rear entry garages, but otherwise very, very comparable to what we're talking about in terms of square footage, costs, and so forth.
Very good. It is a beautiful project. The structures that I've seen on paper are really above board.
Thank you.
When you first brought it in front of us the first time, my eyes got big as little donuts because I had never seen anything in this area like that. I think it's a big improvement. I'm really happy to say that I know you now.
That's right. We're
for
friends,
what you've
yeah.
done. You and Mr. White, along with your group, have really excelled in improving the areas you worked on.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yes. Some of your other projects are mixed use. Is this going to be mixed use?
No, sir, that's a good question, Mr. Harper. Actually, this one is not going to be mixed use. Our other ones are, because we're typically in the core downtown area like we are here on Williams Square, which will allow some compatible ground floor commercial. Because of this property, I don't have an aerial here, but if staff wants, I think staff can get one if we really need one. But we're in the middle of this neighborhood, and it's not conducive. One, I don't think it'd be successful. Number two, it's not conducive to that neighborhood character. It's straight single family residential. And ours will be too.
You did mention that Jack had fairly good taste, and I was just wondering if he wanted to comment about that or not.
Mr. White? He doesn't like to speak in public, actually. That's my sole purpose of this partnership is to talk to you all. But if you want to put me out of a job, Jack, we can talk.
Well, Jeff, this is embarrassing. I'm going to go into my history. Yeah, Chris, I do the pretty pictures, and Chris talks about them. But to your point, we do create pattern books for our projects. So each project is specific in architectural design and style. So the WC Grand project will have its own pattern book that will allow certain styles and architectural features, and which are part of the PD agreement. So we take a lot of pride in the style and the architecture, and want it to be a definitely a standout and marquee type of project. So we look forward to that.
Good.
And for the record, in your map series, there is an aerial, so you can see that it is in a very residential area.
All right. Well, any public comments now? Thank you, sir.
John Nicholson, 413 North Grandview Avenue. Yeah, Mr. Chalice caught me before the meeting and said, "You're not going to say anything bad, are you?" It's been a long time coming. Two of you would remember what was on this property years ago. It was apartments, very, very bad for the neighborhood. The city paid a bit too much for it, tore it down. What's going in? Initially, this is exactly what Jack had proposed 9 years ago. He wanted single-family homes. Unfortunately, staff went a different direction. He's coming back to what is ideal for the neighborhood. The only problem I have is I can't find where it says setbacks. I'm presuming there's going to be setbacks, side setbacks, but other than that, I'm perfectly happy and can't wait till the first house is built. Thank you.
Fantastic. All right.
Mr. Berger.
I think that covers it for, unless you have any questions of me.
I have none.
Covered.
Board?
I think it speaks to the quality of all the projects tonight that John Nicholson was for all of them.
Fantastic. Board, may we have a motion, please?
Yeah, I make a motion that we accept the rezoning plan redevelopment district First Amendment DV 2013-87 WC grant.
Second.
And a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Next.
Carried 7-0.
Thank you. Next item on this part.
You've already discussed it, and so now we're just going to, preliminary plat WC Grand Development 2013-081.
Yeah, I have to log it in.
Second.
All right, that too has been motion and second, and the discussion carries. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 7-0. Fantastic. Thank you, sir. We're gonna. Other business, downtown Belleau Road. We don't have her here.
He's not here.
Mr. Bohorn is not here. Midtown Redevelopment Board.
Report. We had two meetings within the last month, one on October the 8th. Again, we got an update from the police department as to the status of crimes and so forth within the community. And we discussed the large-scale comprehensive plan. And then we had a special meeting on October the 22nd to discuss, again, Midtown Master Plan and zoning, pretty much zoning. So that was brought before this board tonight, and so those were updates from that meeting.
Fantastic. Main Street. Excuse me.
Main Street.
Mr. Bohorn. Yeah, Mr. Bohorn. And public comments? He's gone. Would either of you like to comment?
No, thank you.
All right. Staff comments.
The only item that I had was we have an acting chairman, and we need to make official motion for chairman, and right now Mr. Neal has volunteered to serve. He's the vice chairman, and so I think a motion's in order to have the chairman since Ms. Remark left, and if he is chairman, then we would need a motion for vice chairman.
Are we doing all officers?
No, we're doing it now because we have the vacancy with Ms. Remark leaving.
Just for a vice chairman.
Well, first chairman, because she was the chairman. And
So we need a motion to appoint Mr. Neal chairman of our board.
that would be up to the board to decide, but that's certainly a possibility.
I make a motion, we appoint Mr. Neal.
I second that motion.
We better ask him if he wants to.
Well, he doesn't have a choice.
He's in the seat.
I've already volunteered my services, but yes, I will accept. I don't have many nervous days, but not knowing what's going on sometimes does get you a little tense, and you won't see much tension on me from here on in. I will do a very best job, my very best. Are we gonna vote?
Yeah.
All right, I have to do that one on my own? Oh, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it.
We need a vice chairman.
Now, the chair is now open for vice chairman of our board.
My inclination
Recommendation.
would be Mr. Hoytsma, since he's not here. But that wouldn't be very fair. I'd like to nominate Mr. Barhu, if he could, as vice chair.
I second that.
It's been motion and second, Mr. Bahu.
I was going to nominate someone else.
It's been motion and second that Mr. Bahu be the vice chair of our planning board. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Bahu, there it is. You are now our vice chair. Thank you. Nothing else? As no other, any other board comments? This is going to cement me into my position.
I guess we've done all the damage we could do.
I say we have. The meeting adjourned.